Right now on Matter of Fact, emergency funding for wildfire and hurricane relief. Storm-ravaged Puerto Rico struggling to move from survival to rebuilding.
We're making a plea to Congress to act quickly on an immediate relief package to Puerto Rico.
President Trump questions the federal role in fixing Puerto Rico's long-term problems. Private efforts helping meet basic survival needs. Could compassion fatigue prevent a comeback? And Homeland Security using social media to track millions of foreign-born Americans. Put yourself in their shoes. What would your posts and search histories reveal about you? Plus, the Pause Pod. Do you need a timeout at work? A Kickstarter project offering a pop-up solution.
I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. As we grapple with the recovery efforts in Puerto Rico, policymakers are asking, do we need a Marshall Plan to rebuild the island? That, of course, was the American initiative that rebuilt the devastated areas of Europe after World War II. Puerto Rico, battered by Hurricanes Irma and Maria, is home to 3.5 million Americans, their lives and livelihoods now uprooted. It's hard to imagine the comeback, but experts say the island has the potential to be an economic powerhouse if its infrastructure can be strongly and smartly rebuilt. Luis Fortuno is one of the optimists. He's a former governor of Puerto Rico and was the first Secretary of Economic Development and Commerce for the island. It's nice to have you with us.
My pleasure, Soledad.
Why are you optimistic when you look at all the challenges that Puerto Rico has had? First, starting with an economic crisis. Then you have Hurricane Irma. Then you have Hurricane Maria. How are you optimistic?
Well, I see an opportunity in everything that happens to you in life. And in this case, I see an opportunity given the fact that, now that we're starting to move beyond the search and rescue stage and all that, to think smartly about our infrastructure. There'll be a lot of FEMA money, insurance money, and other type of funding that will be coming in. If it's leveraged appropriately, it could actually be the building foundation for a brighter future for those Americans that still reside in Puerto Rico at that moment. I do have concerns with migration, but that could be very, very powerful moving forward.
There's been a brain drain out of Puerto Rico for a little bit. How do you keep 1 million Puerto Ricans from leaving the island in the wake of a real disaster? Sure,
and it's very tough. As long as power comes back so that people can go back to work and kids can go back to school, that'll stop. So I do have family members, actually, that have moved to the mainland temporarily, but they are senior citizens. And so they have every intention of moving back to the island as soon as they can.
Infrastructure, I don't need to tell you because you well know, was already very challenged in Puerto Rico. So it would not just be, hey, let's fix what's there. It actually has to be completely redone. That's going to cost a lot of money and require a will to reinvest in the island.
Well, and a will to be smarter about it.
Give me the number that you think to come in to rebuild, to fix the infrastructure, build it better than it was before. What's that cost?
It will probably cost somewhere around $45, $50 billion easily. That does not take into consideration private property that has been affected. And private property, in most cases, will be insured. If it's properly insured, it will be rebuilt.
So give me your vision of Puerto Rico in the future. People have spoken about a Marshall Plan, that massive historical going in and rebuilding very intentionally post-war. Do you see a similar Marshall Plan, if you will, for Puerto Rico?
Well, I'm also realistic here. And I believe a lot of money will be flowing into those heart-stricken areas across the country. That includes Puerto Rico. But I believe there's not that much money anymore. So there is a limit as to how far Congress will continue to, give out money and go out, to foreign countries so that they buy our treasury bonds.
So no Marshall Plan in
So
your mind.
I don't see that happening. However, I see a tremendous. I lived through 2 hurricanes in Puerto Rico. And if the monies are used appropriately, there could be an economic boom.
Is that a 10-year plan? Is that a 20-year plan? Are we 30 years later seeing Puerto Rico come back?
I don't want to wait that long, to be honest. And what I've heard from federal officials is that the damage to the infrastructure is serious, but it can be fixed rather quickly. Quickly in terms of, it may take months for some people. And if you and your family have no power for months,
months is a lifetime.
It's a lifetime. This has, however, affected the lives of everyone in Puerto Rico, I think for life.
Puerto Rico has never gotten the same opportunities that the mainland has. In fact, I think there's a whole bunch of people who just figured out that Puerto Ricans are Americans, like a lot of people.
It's unbelievable that we have been part of this great nation for 120 years. We have been American citizens for 100 years.
Fought in America's wars.
At a greater level per capita than every single state, and we're proud of that. And it takes a crisis like this one for a lot of people to find out, but it's never late.
Luis Fortuno, former governor. Nice to have you with us, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on Matter of Fact, a special report.
I will never be over the loss of my sister. I think about her every day.
Veterans dying by suicide. Why are women vets more at risk? And later, the general who took on the cause of vets with brain injuries.
We see upwards of 60% of soldiers that suffer traumatic brain injury also suffer post-traumatic stress.
How groundbreaking research could change the way we diagnose and treat our vets.
It is sobering to report that rates of suicide are on the rise for every age group under the age of 75 in the United States. In fact, a recent CDC report showed an increase of 24% between 1999 and 2014. For veterans, the story is worse. According to a 2014 Veterans Administration study, on average, 20 veterans die by suicide every day. A deep dive into that study reveals a stark reality for female veterans. Their risk of suicide is 2.5 times more likely than for civilian women. Our correspondent Diane Roberts reports on how one woman is turning the loss of her sister into a mission to help others.
These two are my favorite pictures of Michelle and I. This was whenever she first came home from the hospital.
Nicole Langhorst was always the big sister. Okay, what is this? It looks like it says Michelle.
It does. I got this tattoo on Siblings Day in 2015, and it is her actual signature. And I thought that it was a way to honor my sister. She gives me signs every day that she's by me. My sister's birthday is May 13th, and I always see license plates of 513. And I've probably seen hundreds of them. And she also sends me pennies from heaven. So whenever I find one on the ground, I pick it up, and it makes me smile and think that Michelle's with me.
The Langhorst girls grew up in Pennsylvania's Steel City. So we're down here in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh. Heinz Field is over there, PNC Park is over there.
Pittsburgh is a Steeler, Pirates, Penguins town, and my sister loved going to the games. We went to many games together, especially when she was home on leave from the Army. We definitely tried to get to a game.
Michelle was in the Army 9 years, making the rank of staff sergeant. 13 months of her time was spent as a military police officer deployed to Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom. Also, as a gunner on a Humvee, Michelle saw action on the front lines. Nicole says her sister suffered from post-traumatic stress, but barely talked about what she'd seen and done.
I think it was kind of a perfect storm that occurred, and Michelle, she didn't reach out for help or didn't tell anybody that she was hurting so much.
Michelle Langhorst was honorably discharged from the Army in 2013 and had what appeared to be a full life, graduating from college with a degree in criminal justice in 2014 and hoping to attend law school. She worked as head of security at a local hospital and volunteered with foster children. Michelle died by suicide 2.5 years ago, weeks shy of her 32nd birthday. Nicole's grief over that loss propels her to help veterans at risk, pursuing her dream of becoming a clinical psychologist.
I solely want to work with veterans, particularly suicidal veterans, and I would just really like to be on the front lines with those veterans.
Today, Nicole works with vets on the helpline staff for TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, helping families through the struggles she knows firsthand.
I will never be over the loss of my sister. I think about her every day, but this is a new normal for me. I am trying to think of the great times that I had with her and the great memories, and not specifically about her death.
In Pittsburgh, I'm Diane Roberts for Matter of Fact.
Michelle Langhorst is featured in a War at Home memorial. This traveling display honors veterans who lost their battles with suicide. The nonprofit Mission 22 is hoping to make it a permanent installation.
Next on Matter of Fact, growing numbers of women in combat.
They make up 16 to 17% of our force, and they're absolutely critical.
Hear what this general says about helping women vets at risk from post-traumatic stress. And later.
So you might be saying, that looks like a pup tent, but no, it is a sanctuary from the outside world.
Really? How getting Zen might have you camping out at work?
The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is confronting the question, does post-traumatic stress increase a vet's risk of death by suicide? There's considerable debate among researchers. Some studies suggest the risk is higher among those who experience trauma due to PTS symptoms. Others claim the risk is higher in these individuals because of psychiatric conditions. I recently spoke with retired General Peter Corelli, former Vice Chief of Staff for the Army, and the point man on the Army's efforts to bring down its suicide rate. He's now the CEO of One Mind. It's a nonprofit focused on traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. It's nice to have you. Thanks for talking with me.
Great to be here.
Why are the numbers around suicide so high for women veterans?
Well, if I knew that, I promise I'd tell you, but a lot of it is a mystery for me. I mean, there are some issues that I'm sure women have when they come back home. They don't have a support system necessarily the same that men do. I don't think the same camaraderie exists that it does in the male ranks, so the support system isn't there.
I've had women veterans, ones who've struggled with mental health issues, talk a lot about the feeling of being left out. Even when people are talking about service, they almost will tell stories about being particularly excluded from, people looking back and talking about, like, you were part of it.
Yeah, I think that's a real issue. I mean, women in combat is a relatively new phenomena for the United States. Yet we could not have fought the wars we fought in Afghanistan and Iraq without women. They make up 16 to 17% of our force, and they're absolutely critical. But the same support systems that have built up over time for men are just not there for women.
You've been studying these issues for years. Your last 4 years in service in the military was focused on this. What's the problem? Why don't we have real solutions?
I think the problem is that the research ecosystem is not set up to find solutions to really, really difficult problems. We need to be sharing data, and researchers need to be working together in large multi-center studies. I don't believe any university, no matter how good it is going to be able to mass the number of research scientists it's going to take to get at some of these really difficult problems. And we've got to share data. We've got to share data between studies. Too often we repeat studies. We even repeat failed studies because no one wants to publish the study or a paper that says I was wrong.
So there were people who had predicted one day you'd be able to do a blood test and figure out if someone, in fact, has post-traumatic stress. For example, now it's basically a list of 21 questions. There's no sort of real definitive test to say you have it, you don't.
I think that's so important that you point that out. We tend to think about diagnosis as go to the doctor, he takes a picture, he takes blood, You know, there is some physical way that he can biologically tell and makes the diagnosis of the disease you have.
Like the way they diagnose cancer.
That's right. That's not the case when it comes to post-traumatic stress. It's not the case when it comes to traumatic brain injury. We use cognitive tests. We use a psychiatric manual and 21 questions to make a determination on whether or not someone has post-traumatic stress or not.
Do you think there will be, at some point, medication specifically created to help people who have post-traumatic stress?
I think if we work together, we can find biological markers. I think we could find blood tests. I think all those things are possible. We are very close in traumatic brain injury to, I think, finding a blood biomarker that appears in the blood after a concussion. I think we're very close to having imaging biomarkers that are going to allow us to tell what portion of the brain is affected when somebody suffers head trauma. I think all these things are possible, but again, I have to stress, we're going to have to get scientists to work together.
Are you finding that people are more open to conversations around concussion linked to PTS, cognitive problems linked to suicide?
I think they are. I think people have come to realize that even in the civilian population, when somebody goes into an emergency room with traumatic brain injury, 30% of them also have post-traumatic stress. We see what we call comorbidity, that these two problems exist together in a lot of folks. It's a much higher comorbidity in soldiers. We see upwards of 60% of soldiers that suffer traumatic brain injury also suffer post-traumatic stress. And I think we're starting to see some linkages between the two.
Feeling hopeful or not hopeful? I'm
hopeful. I really feel that the researchers that we're working with at One Mind have made tremendous inroads. And before too long, we're going to have the first biological diagnostics for traumatic brain injury. And I think that could open up the science.
Retired General Pete Corelli, thanks for talking with me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up next, eBay records, Facebook, Twitter, Tinder. If you agreed to the terms of use, could you be on Homeland Security's monitoring list? And still ahead, employees camping out next to their cubicles? How a midday snooze at the office became a marketer's dream.
And now to our weekly feature we like to call We're Paying Attention Even If You're Too Busy To. Starting on Wednesday, October 18th, the Department of Homeland Security will collect and store social media information on new legal immigrants, permanent alien residents, and naturalized U.S. citizens. Altogether, that's about 43 million foreign-born people who live within our borders. Homeland Security will gather publicly available information that includes social media handles, identifiable information, and internet search results. That action comes as part of the Modified Privacy Act systems of record. The department will draw on commercial data suppliers like Equifax, Intellius, and Axicom, and they'll have access to eBay records, Facebook, Twitter, Tinder, all of that, all dependent on those terms of use forms that you agree to online. So, how will the information be used? It's part of what the Department of Homeland Security could use as a basis for excluding people from the U.S., affecting visas and the ability to enter or exit the nation.
When we return, we take a pause to tell you about the Pause Pod.
So this might be the greatest thing I have ever reported on. If you've been feeling overwhelmed lately, then you might consider a Pause Pod. It's billed as the world's first private pop-up space. This Kickstarter product is a brainchild of problem-solving designers in Sweden who wanted a place to decompress from overstimulation. So you might be saying, that looks like a pup tent, but no, it is a sanctuary from the outside world. Of course, it comes with a video, so take a look. It's a tent with a leg compartment. The pod is supposed to shut out the sights and sounds of your coworkers. It's primarily marketed for use at the office. It's a place to sleep between meetings or intense sessions on your computer. It can be stashed right next to your desk or your cubicle. All right, that actually could be awkward. The Pause Pod retails for $99, comes with a sling so you can carry it around with you. I love this so much, I must have one. I'm Soledad O'Brien. We'll see you back here next week for Matter of Fact.